Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, in every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about Season 5, Episodes 6 and 7 of FX's Fargo. So Episodes 6 and 7 are titled The Tinder Trap and Linda, respectively, named after the strip club that is prominently featured in Episode 6, and Roy's first wife slash Gator's mother, Linda, who we meet in Episode 7. Before I even get to talking about these episodes, I first kind of want to kind of apologize for the delay. I say kind of sort of because I don't have anything to apologize for, but I do feel bad about this lengthy hiatus. It's been, I don't know, man, probably like nearly a month since I dropped a video, but on the plus side of things, I have a shitload of content coming over the course of the next couple of days, but you know, it was the holidays, so I kind of have a built-in excuse already, but I didn't intend for the break to be this long. I got pretty sick over the holidays, and it was for a pretty long time. You know, when I recorded that video for the finale for Murder at the End of the World, shout out to everybody who loved that video, by the way. Appreciate it. I was already starting to get pretty sick, but I just had a moment where I was okay, and I was obviously pretty fired up about that episode, so I'm like, let me get this video out. But yeah, between how sick I was, taking a holiday break, and there just not being a ton of content out there, I just decided to take the time to get healthy and plan out 2024. I'll put out a new future state video soon that's going to roughly outline my plans for 2024, but I'll just say here that the plan is to finish out the Fargo coverage and then get videos for the 2023 faves for TV and movies completed, and then also I have a video coming for the last 2 episodes of Slow Horses, and then there's more. I have an Echo video for season 1 of Echo that I'm going to put out within the next day or two. And then we're going to start with True Detective and go on from there. So I've kind of already done the future state. But I may even do a music one. But if I do that, it'll be for the Patreon. But that's all I have for right now. Let's get started talking about these episodes. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time on them since, 2 episodes. There's 2 more episodes that have aired since. And number 2, yet another episode, the penultimate one for the season, was airing at the time that I did these notes, or was about to air at the time I did these notes. So I'm just like, I don't need to really dive deep into these 2 episodes, 6 and 7, when I got 8 and 9 already done. So no, I'm sorry. Wait, no, not 8 and 9. Yeah. So I believe that I expressed in the last video that I was beginning to grow tired of each episode being another failed attempt at kidnapping Dot. And yeah, that's a bit of a minimalization of what was happening, but not entirely. But the show seemed to have heard me. So these 2 episodes I thought fit together quite nicely, showcasing the escalation of the beef between Rory and Lorraine in episode 6, and then picking up where episode 5 left off in episode 7 by focusing on Dot's mission to find Linda. So in episode 6, Rory runs up on the bankers from the prior episode at the Tinder Trap, which is the strip club for the episode title. And I like this scene brought further elaboration to the scene between Lorraine and the bankers from the last episode that felt kind of like that scene was on an island to me. Like, why is this here? What does this mean? So this scene brought a little bit more This illuminated that previous scene a little bit more. Well, Roy basically threatened this guy, Vivian, into not selling his bank to Lorraine, and then sends Lorraine Vivian's shirt with a note that says, "Not on my watch." This leads into one of the better lines of the season when Danish returns to the strip club to confront Vivian after he's been ducking Lorraine's calls at Roy's request. I haven't been a big fan of Jennifer Jason Leigh's portrayal of this character and that ridiculous accent she's been doing, but it worked really well while telling Vivian how she's ruined his life and his legacy, she says he's going to live in squalor surrounded by the dead eyes of his futureless children. That was a cold motherfucking line, man. Game, set, match. And then they cut to her looking at the pictures of Dot's beaten body in her file that Indira gave her. And you know that this beat between her and Roy is only going to worsen or get better, depending on your perspective. But we'll revisit that in my video for episode 8. Speaking of Indira, though, this episode really lit a spark under the plot line revolving around her marriage. We knew that it was that she was in financial distress because of her husband's golf passion, but we learned a lot more in this episode. For starters, we learned that this is a recurring issue for him. Apparently, he also used to dream about being a drummer before being a golfer, which is why that drum set is in their garage. So this is a guy that dreams big, he dreams pricey, but he doesn't fully commit. Or he's just not good enough. He commits to things he's not that good at. But we also learned that in addition to being bad with money, he's also just a general piece of shit of a person and is also likely cheating on Indira. But more on that in my episode 8 video as well. It's kind of weird recording videos where I've already watched future episodes, but anyway. He has a whole scene where, if I'm being honest, this scene went, I think, a little bit too far and went on too long, where he complains to Indira about her not being supportive enough of him. The scene starts off as like, how dare he? What a piece of shit, right? By the time it was over, I was just like, okay, I got the point a long time ago. You could stop now. Like, he starts off with like, I want a wife who cooks well and cleans. And it's like, Jesus, fuck, this guy's a piece of shit. Like, the nerve of him. He didn't even say that he wants her to cook. He said he wants her to be good at it. Like, geez, like, what a piece of shit this guy is, right? And then he's like, I want a wife who wants to know how my day was first and actually listen to the answer. And I'm just like, man, still, I'm like, fuck this guy, man. Like, why is he even putting value on wanting to know about his day first? Like, it doesn't matter who asked who first, right? And then he's like, I want a wife who supports me. And I'm like, and by this point, I'm like, okay, I get it now, right? This is getting a little bit too on the nose. Like, she supports him to a ludicrous degree, and now he's sitting here saying it's not enough. I get it. He's a cunt. Whatever, right? Like, it's getting a little bit too far. And then he's like, oh yeah, the sex is whack too. And I'm just like, all right, Fargo, look. I got it sentences ago. You can stop now. I understand what is happening in this scene. I understood it like 3 examples ago. We don't have to keep going. But he later leaves Scotty at home alone to go see his physical therapist. And I made note of the little cologne spray that he did before he left. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that if a man puts on cologne, he's trying to get laid. I'm not saying that. But I will say that the way that he put on cologne suggested that he was trying to get laid. I was like, when he did that, I was like, oh, he definitely wants to fuck his therapist. If he's even seeing a therapist, that could be a lie too. But another plot line in this episode, and we're right back to I don't need another example of this, was Gator fucking up yet again by kidnapping and beating on the wrong guy. And just like I said in the last video about getting tired of failed attempts at kidnapping Dot, I'm getting tired of examples of Gator being a fuck up too. Like, Gator and Bowman are beating the shit out of cancer intestines guy, thinking that he's Wayne, and he's not giving them an inch, right? But Gator remains loud and wrong, as he has been all season, absolutely certain that this is Wayne. And I gotta admit, I did get a little excited for when Roy would inevitably arrive and see that Gator has fucked up yet again, and it did not disappoint. When Roy arrives, he shoots the guy in the head, and this sequence is sick. Like, the gunshot is like a normal kill shot to the head, but then the way it was shot was cool. Like, the dude kind of like quivered for a second, like his brain didn't understand that he was dead yet. And then he slumps forward, and like the blood and like brain matter just comes flowing out of his head hole. I thought that was pretty cool, man. It's a sick shot. Roy says that Gator is basically stricken with bad luck over how they stiffed Munch, so he plans on paying Munch what he's owed, and then some, in order to obviously take care of Dot. And a great scene of foreshadowing, Gator is being his oblivious self, doing things like unironically telling Munch not to be cocky. And Munch tells him when a man digs a grave, he has to fill it, otherwise it's just a hole. And I can't wait for Munch to fill a hole with Gator. Pause. Moving on to episode 7. Like I said at the top, this will primarily focus on Dot and her mission to find Linda. Roy's first wife, and I'm pretty conflicted on this episode. There's a lot that I didn't like, but at the same time, I understand it. But I'm also not out here giving points for understanding. So it's like, so what I mean by that is, okay, take the movie Nomadland. I saw what Chloe Zhao was going for there with that film, and I respected it. But at the end of the day, it was just not an enjoyable experience for me to watch that movie. So it's like I see all of the like high level artistry that's going into this. I'm seeing what's going on. I'm picking up what you're putting down, Chloe. But this is just not an enjoyable movie, right? And there are aspects of this episode that I saw, understood, and just like Nomadland, respected. But at the end of the day, I just didn't like it. Like, I think the best example of this is the shit with the puppets. And like, I haven't read or heard still. Like, it's been, we just watched, the most recent episode is 9. I still haven't read anyone's thoughts on episodes 6, 7, 8, or 9. I have no idea what the general fandom thinks of those 4 episodes. And I'm obviously late on giving my own reaction as well. But I didn't like the puppet shit. Like, my thought is that this was done in lieu of showing actual graphic violence against women. It could trigger them, you know, domestic violence, which on one hand I can respect, right? But then on the other hand, I wonder, then why the fuck did we see Roy smack the ever-loving shit out of his wife last week, but I gotta see what Dot did and what he did to Dot in puppet form? So it's the inconsistency, right? Like, I think that they thought that this was creative, and I just thought like, okay, well, it's again, violence happening off screen on a show that has been on a show that's based on a movie that had very over-the-top graphic violence in it. And then I think, well, maybe they wanted to find a creative way of telling this part of the story. But then I also think about how there has seemed to be an overabundance of this specific thing lately. Not just like, oh, we're going to tell this flashback story creatively. No. I've been seeing traumatizing moments depicted specifically in puppet and cartoon form a lot lately. So now it's kind of hard for me to look at that as creative storytelling. So I'm just kind of left at a place where I felt like I spent a lot of time in this episode doing things like watching Dot making puppets, having the use of the puppets justified. And now I got to sit through some sort of trial with puppets where Dot has to justify wanting Linda to come with her. And I'm just not at all, by that point, I'm just not into this puppet shit at all. And then to top it off, at the end of the episode, we learned that shit didn't even actually fucking happen. Like, now, this is slightly different in that I do believe that what we learned in this supposed dream sequence was real, but it just kind of sucked that I had to sit through this puppet shit that I didn't even fucking like to find out that it didn't actually fucking happen. Like this whole season has been all over the place with what it shows and what it doesn't. And last week, I saw a guy get shot in the head. And, well, I think last episode, I saw a guy get shot in the head, and I watched his skull contents drain out of the head hole. The week prior to that, Dot attacked orderlies off screen, and the following week, Dot's trauma was displayed via puppets. So, like, what? Like, there's no consistency here. And I just think it undermines whatever intention you have in not showing the violence when you do show it in other circumstances. And maybe the puppet thing was meant to be a creative way of doing this, and if you don't watch every single thing like I do, you probably did think, wow, that was pretty cool and creative. But I found myself going, wait, I had to watch some heavy shit in puppet form again? Like, I just saw violence in puppet form on Gen V 2 months ago. So, like, the term puppet violence is not one that should be used twice in a 2-month span if we're trying to get creativity points. Feel me, right? Like, you feel me, right? So, in retrospect, there were some clues that this sequence might not have been real. Clues that at the time I considered to be examples of shitty TV making. Like, for instance, when Dot is at the diner, she orders pancakes. Speaking of which, I still want to know if her obsession with pancake/Bisquick is rooted in something, or if it's just an aspect of her character. I don't know. But she orders the pancakes, and they arrive literally 20 seconds later. I counted. I rewound and counted. Because I'm like, that's just ridiculously fast, how fast those pancakes came. But that makes sense once you realize the events of the episode didn't actually happen, and she probably daydreamed the whole episode in that 20 seconds, and what in the 20 seconds of screen time, which for her she might have been daydreaming this scenario for 20 minutes, and then the pancakes came. But for us, it was 20 seconds. And then the way she was driving and her car like running out of gas in front of that Camp Utopia sign, and then she gets off and wanders off into the woods, and that was strange to me at the time. But again, it makes sense when you consider how this didn't actually happen. Felt a little bit too convenient, though. Everyone being called Linda was kind of weird, but again, I can now write that off too, knowing that it wasn't real. Also in this episode, we get confirmation of what I already knew, but for some reason, the internet refused to accept that old lady was not Munch's mother. Like, I don't know how, I don't even know why people believe that. I really don't. It felt really obvious to me that it wasn't. And we see Gator making use of the tracker that he put on Munch's car. So Munch kills the lady's actual son, and then I believe uses his body in this kind of like Weekend at Bernie's fucking setup that serves to inform us that Munch is aware that he's being tracked. Sure enough, Gator, just increasingly stupider every week, shoots a silhouette through a window, just assuming that it's probably Munch. There were so many things wrong with that idea, the least of which being Munch can't catch Dot if he's dead. So, again, the Gator's decision-making is terrible. But I can see Gator trying to curry favor with his father by getting Dot himself, but don't go rogue like this. And then he goes to take back the money that they paid Munch after he sees it in the car. Makes sense, since in his mind, Munch is dead. But the old lady comes back, and he accidentally kills her by pushing her down on the ground, and she cracks her on the concrete, and her bag of oranges spills out of the street like Don Corleone. And I guess at the end of the day, for me, this season is just not living up to the promise of the first two episodes. Like, there are fleeting moments where I feel like it's performing at a high level, but I'm consistently being taken out of episodes with weird character choices and strange narrative and creative decisions. And then on the flip side, though, I think Juno Temple and John Hamm have both been outstanding. And the show is still quite enjoyable to watch. I just don't know if it can reach the heights of season 1 or 2 anymore. And that makes me sad. But until next week or the next video, which I'm going to record right after this one, peace.